The transition from November to December is always unsettling. The sun sets at 4:30 p.m., the temperature drops and the world goes quiet. It's the time of year when we lock our doors tight and huddle inside for warmth. But for some people, the cold isn't the only thing trying to get inside. With winter break starting and the holidays approaching, the streets are emptier and the nights are longer. And that makes it the perfect time for unwanted visitors. Here are 3 true scary stories that happened during the dead of winter. This happened last year. In early December 2024, was a junior at a university in Ohio. If you know anything about the Midwest, you know that once December hits, the campus turns into a ghost town. Most of my roommates had already left for winter break to go see their families, but I had to stay back a few extra days to finish a final architecture project. I lived in an off-campus apartment complex, one of those cheap 3-story buildings that hasn't been renovated since the 80s. That Tuesday night, the complex was dead silent. No music, no parties, just the sound of the heater rattling in the corner. I was the only one left in my unit on the top floor. Around 11:30 p.m., I was in the living room typing on my laptop when I heard a thump coming from the hallway. At first, I ignored it. Old buildings make noise when the temperature drops. The pipes expand and contract. But then I heard it again. Scrape, thump. It sounded like it was coming from the ceiling. I muted the TV and sat perfectly still. My heart started pounding in my ears. In these cheap college apartments, the attic access is just a square panel in the ceiling of the hallway. It's not a real floor. It's just rafters and insulation. I walked into the hallway and looked up. The attic panel was shifted. It wasn't closed all the way. A gap of black darkness was visible. I grabbed a baseball bat from my closet, the aluminum kind, and stood under the hatch. I yelled out, trying to sound tougher than I felt. "Who's there?" "I'm calling the cops." Silence. For a solid 10 seconds, there was nothing. I started to think maybe a raccoon had gotten in. Then, a voice low, raspy, and terrifyingly calm whispered from the darkness directly above my head. "Is everyone else gone?" I didn't answer. I didn't wait. I bolted out the front door, leaving it wide open. I sprinted down 3 flights of stairs, slipping on the icy concrete, and dove into my car. I called 911 from the parking lot with the doors locked. When the police arrived, they searched the attic. They didn't find the guy. He must have slipped out the roof access when I ran. But they found a sleeping bag, a pile of empty food wrappers from my kitchen trash, and a hunting knife. The police told me he had likely been living up there for weeks, listening to us, waiting for the building to empty out for the holidays so he could come down. I didn't stay to finish my project. I drove home that night. I work as a DoorDash driver as a side hustle. It helps pay for Christmas gifts. Last year, right around November 30th, we had a really bad sleet storm. The roads were icy, so nobody wanted to go out. That meant surge pricing for drivers. I got an order for a fast food place at around 1 o'clock a.m. The tip was $25, which is huge, so I accepted it immediately. The GPS led me to a new subdivision on the edge of town. You know, the type half the houses are finished, and the other half are just wooden frames wrapped in plastic. It's creepy at night because there are no street lights yet. The delivery address was at the very end of a cul-de-sac. The house was dark. No porch light. No lights in the windows. It looked abandoned. I checked the delivery instructions in the app. They were very specific. Leave at door. Do not knock or ring doorbell. Baby sleeping. Take a photo. I grabbed the bag of food and walked up the driveway. The driveway hadn't been shoveled, so I was crunching through 6 inches of snow. I walked up to the front door, set the food on the welcome mat, and pulled out my phone to take the proof of delivery photo. The flash on my phone went off. Click. For a split second, the flash illuminated the glass storm door. And that's when I saw him. Standing inside the dark house, pressed right up against the glass, was a man. He wasn't wearing a shirt. He was pale, skinny, and he was smiling way too wide. But the scariest part? He was holding a crowbar in his right hand. He wasn't waiting for the food. He didn't even look at the bag. He was looking at me. As soon as the flash faded, I heard the deadbolt on the door click unlock. I dropped my phone. I didn't even try to pick it up. I turned and ran back down the driveway. I slipped on a patch of ice and fell hard on my hip, but I scrambled up on all fours and threw myself into my car. I saw the front door open as I threw the car into reverse. The man stepped out onto the porch, barefoot in the snow, just watching me speed away. I reported it to the police and DoorDash support. It turned out that the house was a vacant property owned by the bank. No one lived there. The account that ordered the food was made with a stolen credit card. I don't deliver to unlit houses anymore. I live in Minnesota. We get heavy winters here, the kind where you can get snowed in for days. Last December, we had a massive blizzard. The weatherman warned everyone to stay indoors. I live alone in a small single-story house near the woods, so I was pretty used to the isolation. I woke up around 7 a.m. the morning after the storm. The snow had finally stopped falling, leaving a perfect, smooth white blanket over my backyard. It was beautiful. I walked into the kitchen to make coffee. My kitchen has a sliding glass door that looks out onto the back deck. As I poured the water into the coffee maker, I glanced out the window. My blood ran cold. There were footprints in the fresh snow. They were large boot prints. They started from the tree line of the woods behind my house, walked all the way across the yard, up the stairs of my deck, and stopped right in front of the glass door. But that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was that there were no footprints leading away. The tracks just ended at the door. I froze. I looked down at the lock on the sliding door. It was unlocked. I always lock it before bed, always. But last night, I must have forgotten. My brain was trying to process what I was seeing. If the footprints came to the door and didn't leave, that meant the person was inside. Slowly, I backed away from the kitchen, reaching into my pocket for my phone. The house was dead silent. Then, directly above me, I heard a floorboard creak. My bedroom is right above the kitchen. I didn't even grab my coat. I ran out the front door into the freezing snow, barefoot, and sprinted to my neighbor's house across the street. I banged on their door until they let me in. We called the police. When the officers arrived, they found a man hiding in my bedroom closet. He was soaking wet from the snow and had a length of rope in his pocket. He had been watching me sleep for 3 hours. These stories are a reminder to always check your locks, especially when the snow starts to fall. You never know who might be using the weather to hide their tracks. If you have a scary winter story, let me know in the comments. And if you want to sleep tonight, maybe keep the lights on. See you in the next one.